Hey, we are doing something very interesting today, something very
significant.
So we are talking about the Middle Ages and the Black Death.
Yes.
After the Norman conquest, we've got the Middle Ages.
Yes.
So it was the time of almost constant war.
Yep.
Everybody fought against everybody.
Yep.
So who is everybody, Sarah?
We were fighting the Scottish, the Irish, the Welsh, the French, and anyone else we could think of.
And then also abroad, there were war because of the Crusades. We will also talk about the Crusades.
Oh yeah, that's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
King Edward I in 1284 introduced the Statute of
Rhuddlan.
What is that, Sarah?
It's a Welsh word, which we had to look up the
pronunciation
how we
of.
have to pronounce it, because the Welsh language is spelt in a very odd way. They don't like vowels very much.
So why is the Statute of Rhuddlan important?
Which annexed Wales to the Crown of England. Edward I was a great castle builder, and if you go to Wales, all over Wales there are these massive castles he built to tell the Welsh, it's ours now. It wasn't a peaceful annexation. The Welsh were not happy about it, to put it mildly, which is why the king had to put all these castles up just to remind them that no, he was the boss as far as he was concerned. And the Welsh thought, no, thanks, but
okay.
They didn't have a lot of choice.
See, so this is what you don't have in the book. Everything that Sarah knows.
It wasn't a peaceful annexation. The Welsh obviously were pretty upset, to put it mildly.
But the English did it. They were successful.
Yeah.
However, they were not successful with Scotland.
No.
So what happened there?
The English, were beaten in 1314 by a leader of the Scottish people called Robert the Bruce. I don't know what Bruce meant, but anyway, at the Battle of Bannockburn.
Again, so in 1314, Robert the Bruce
defeated the English at the battle.
Defeated the English.
Yes.
And Scotland remained unconquered.
Yes.
And there is a really nice story about Robert the Bruce. Like we had a story about the Danish king Knut. And if you haven't seen that video, so watch our previous video. It's a really beautiful story. And this time we've got another story about Bruce.
Robert the Bruce was defeated at some point in his battles against the English, and he was hiding in a cave, so the story goes, and he was watching a spider build its web, and then the wind blew and knocked it down, and the spider just started again, and the same thing happened, and the spider just started again. And Robert the Bruce watched this spider and realised that what he had to do was just to keep trying, not give up, keep going, persevere.
Yes, because he felt a bit down by then, because he had fought many wars against the English and he was not successful, and there were previous battles he fought which are not mentioned in the book, and you don't need to know them, but that's why he then hid in the cave. He wanted probably to be alone, and then he saw the spider and then he won the war.
The spider inspired him to go,
so you
go back and fight some more.
So it's another nice story that
probably,
the power of perseverance.
Probably not true, but it's a good story.
We like everybody likes a good story.
Yeah, that doesn't have to be true.
So that was Robert the Bruce and the story about the spider. So what about the island?
It was ruled by a king. It was an independent country and so on. And the people were being very rebellious, so he asked the English to please come and help fight them. So the English sort of came to help and sort of moved in to Dublin, which is the capital of Southern Ireland. And
the area.
No, hang on. They made that their centre of power. And I think it might even have been a physical wall, but there was an area around Dublin called the Pale, which included the English and all the important people, and everyone outside was considered to be barbarians. And there is an expression in English still known as beyond the pale, which we use to say about someone who has done something that was so bad it was just awful. You're out beyond the pale, just awful. Because the people in Dublin considered the people outside to be barbarians, and peasants and of no importance, and probably brigands and whatever. So the Pale, P-A-L-E, around Dublin was the safe, well-behaved, civilised part of Ireland, and the rest was rubbish, according to them.
So hence the expression, hence the idiom.
The idiom to be beyond the pale.
Interesting. We have discussed, and we now know that the English fought many wars against the Welsh, the Scottish, but they also fought wars abroad. No.
The Crusades weren't a war as such.
What was it?
The Crusades were the Pope initiated
Yes.
the Crusades, saying, if you go on crusade to the Holy Land and get the Holy Land back from the Muslims, the Arabs, you will be, all your sins will be forgiven and you'll go straight to heaven. So those that were very convinced Christians and frankly wanted a good fight and probably to get away from home, because it took years to get to that part of the world, went off on crusade. It wasn't, I suppose it was a war in some sense, but it was fired by religion, and so it's been seen as a religious wars. Then we get, in 1415, King Henry V. This is some time after Edward I in the castles in Wales, but we, the English, beat the French at the Battle of Agincourt in 1415 in France, which has always been one of the sort of historically glorified battles in English history.
Yes, so the English also fought against the French.
We've always fought the French. England and France, before this era, an awful lot of France was owned by England. France didn't exist as a country at that point. It was various areas. Aquitaine was a whole kingdom on its own, and so on, and never mind. But we were actually fighting for what we thought was our historical right to the throne of this area in France. And so we thought we had right on our side, and and obviously we were invading another country. But so it's the date 1415 is one of the dates, like 1066, that a lot of English people will know automatically.
And it was called the 100 Years' War. Yes, I think we didn't mention this.
These battles against the English and the French went on for well over 100 years. I mean, it wasn't every year all the time. It was sporadic fighting, sporadic battles over a period of 100 years.
Moving on, we are now going to discuss the Black Death. So what did the Normans establish? What kind of system did they establish in England, Sarah?
The Norman system, which took over from the Anglo-Saxons, was that there were vast proportions of people in this country were peasants and serfs. And basically, if you were a serf, you were a slave. You did not own your house. You had to work for the lord of the manor, who gave you a small parcel of land to grow a few vegetables and possibly keep a few chickens. You weren't allowed to leave your house and go and work elsewhere. You were tied to that man in the manor. We worked for him and him alone. He never, I don't know whether, no, they never got paid or anything. It was just hand-to-mouth existence. It was a pretty appalling system. Slavery.
And then something disastrous happened in 1348 that changed everything, that changed the whole system.
Yeah.
So what happened in 1348?
In 1348, the Black Death arrived. They think from China via the merchants that crossed the world. So
because England, traded with
traders went backwards and forwards, and what was my point?
Yes, like how the Black Death got here.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. But what I wanted to point out was that the whole area from China right through Europe before England had the Black Death, and thousands of millions of people were dying. And when it arrived in this country, they think from the fleas that came off the rats off the ships of these merchant traders, that was the way that the disease was spread.
And it was a deadly disease because 1/3 of the population of England died. 1/3 of the population of England died. And
People just were felt ill on Monday and were dead on Tuesday, or even by the end of that day. And they just dug huge pits and tipped bodies in. So we don't know really how many people died, but it absolutely decimated, that's awful word, but the population. What they did was they locked up houses where someone had the plague, put a cross on the door, which meant you weren't allowed to go in, and these people were trapped, imprisoned in those houses until they died, because they knew that people walking around were spreading it. So it was the most, it's an unimaginable period of history. We think that COVID was bad, but gee, absolutely appalling.
And also, this disaster, which is one of the worst in Britain,
In the world ever,
so
far,
brought many changes with it. Because of the small population, there weren't that many people who worked or who could work for these
lords.
Yes.
Lord of the Manor.
And also there was a competition. So what happened is that they moved into bigger cities.
Yeah, partly that happened, and also partly suddenly these slaves, these serfs, could say, no, I'm not going to work for you anymore. I'm going over to that farmer who's going to offer to pay me. And there was nothing that the lords of the manor, that the gentry could do about it. They asked to be paid. Well, if you wanted your fields harvested, these were the only people left to do it. So they were sort of blackmailed. But it did free up the people who were left alive, which weren't that many. But yes, so there was a tremendous shift in the social classes, and the population was much more mobile. And the poorest people in this country suddenly had some power, which was a very unfortunate result of the Black Death, but it was in the long term,
I think,
a good thing.
Exactly.
If you
I
can
always
say that
say that every bad thing has a silver lining.
Yes. It was the beginning of our strong middle class in this country.
As with the previous videos, now we have prepared practice questions for you to test whether your knowledge is up to standard. So, question number 1.
When was the last successful invasion of England? Was it A, 1066, B, 1415, C, 1642, or D, 1940?
And we didn't discuss this specifically today. We only touched on it at the beginning of this video. But if you haven't answered this one correctly, and the correct answer is
1066, William the
Yes.
Conqueror.
Can you please watch the previous video where we discussed the Romans and the Norman conquest?
Yeah.
Question number 2.
What 2 effects did the Black Death have on social classes in the 14th century? A new landowning class known as the gentry emerged. B, lots of peasants survived, so their wages fell. Or C, wealthy middle classes developed in the towns. Or D, lots of Catholic priests were killed, leading to the Reformation. And the answers to that is A, new landowning class known as the gentry emerged, and C, wealthy middle classes developed in the towns.
Okay. Question number 3.
Who was victorious at the Battle of Bannockburn? A, Edward I, B, Elizabeth I, C, Bonnie Prince Charlie, or D, Robert the Bruce? And the answer is Robert the Bruce.
Question number 4.
Who were the Crusades? Or should we say the Crusaders? What were the Crusades? Were they A, a fleet of ships sent from Spain to attack England? B, the dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII? C, the civil war between the royalists and the parliamentarians? Or D, the fight for control of the Holy Land by European Christians? And obviously it's D.
Question number 5.
Number 5, which of the following statements is correct? A, Scotland was conquered by England during the Middle Ages. Or B, Scotland remained unconquered by the English during the Middle Ages. And it's B, remained unconquered.
Number 6.
When did the 100 Years' War and the Crusades take place? A. The Middle Ages. B. During the Norman Conquest. C. Between 1640 and 1646. Or D. The 18th century. And it was A. The Middle Ages. This is the period we're talking about at the moment, the Middle Ages. Okay. Question 7. Which battle of the 100 Years' War took place in 1415? A. The Battle of Bannockburn. B. The Battle of Crevant. C. The Battle of Agincourt. Or D. The Battle of Hastings. And it was C. The Battle of Agincourt, which took place in France.
Perfect. So if you are taking the Live in the UK test or you are thinking of becoming a British citizen, we hope you have found this video useful and entertaining. If you have, please like it, share it and subscribe. If you have any comments or any questions, you can always let us know in the comments below. You have all the links in the description. In the next lesson, we are going to cover, we are still within the Middle Ages, and we are talking about the
Magna Carta.
As Sarah said, it is a big deal. Keep on learning, keep on improving. You are not only learning for the test, you are learning for life. You want to become a British citizen and you want to feel confident. So don't be the same, be awesome. Bye.
Bye-bye.